Hi, I wanted to talk about a topic that I think is really important, particularly around for men. One of them is loneliness in men. Um, and I wanted to be able to talk about what I feel that the definition of loneliness is, what drives it, and the perceptions of men, which makes loneliness very difficult for men to deal with. Um, Loneliness is something that I've suffered with for a while, and I want to put that out there because connecting with you who are watching it today, I want to be able to bring out in the open how I feel about it, and I hope that anyone that's watching can connect with it as well. And I'd be really intrigued to be able to for you to share your thoughts, and whether you felt loneliness and how that's made you feel as well. So I have got some topics and sections that I'd like to cover off in the video, and just be able to express, like I said, how I feel about it, and be able to connect with everyone who suffers with it, because I think a lot of people do suffer with loneliness when particularly in men's situation, where there is a certain perception of men, that is very difficult to break when men are brought up in certain environments, and in society, particularly those that are within sort of middle ages of, let's say, between 25 to 40 and beyond, because but something that we'll go into a little bit later on of where I see that. But I want to start by explaining in my terms what I think loneliness is. To me, loneliness is relationships that are not being fulfilled, or relationships that we are struggling or suffering with. Now, when we're lonely, you can think of a visual of one person who you can think of many options. You can think of many. One of those could be that you're in a lonely corner when there's a lot of people within the room, or you feel so anxious within yourself that it is very difficult to be able to connect and communicate with those people because you feel like you're the odd one out. And when you feel like you're the odd one out and you feel very lonely, I think that really means that brings a sort of a social anxiety. Really, you don't want to connect with people because again, you have a certain perception of yourself that makes you feel that you can't connect with those people, and that brings a fear of judgment, as in you may feel judged when you're lonely, and that when you're on your own, you just feel like that though that nobody that you connect with can really understand what you're feeling like and why you feel so lonely. Um, Now, one of the key important things I want to bring up here is that loneliness in men, in it from is for me is a very is something that drives suicide quite a lot. So why do I say that? To me, I believe that when I've suffered with loneliness and that I feel like nobody's understood, um, when I'm struggling or I can't connect with people, or I feel sort of social anxiety, I found that it's very difficult for men to speak up, um, and be able to express their emotions and express how they're feeling. And I think that goes with a lot of men, because I've got some friends and family who I've tried to connect with as well, and it brings up an anxiety that when you ask yourself, well, why should I, I've got something that I'm suffering with, I'll just deal with it, or um, I've got life to live, I've got things on my plate, I've got to serve my family, therefore my feelings do not matter. And I'd like to really understand if any of you watching that really feels that way sometimes, where you're either within a dark room or you're on your own and you're in your thoughts, and you really struggle to really express yourself to other people emotionally about why you're feeling lonely. And I'd really like to understand as well whether you think it is healthy to express your emotions as well from a loneliness perspective. So I've got some points in here that I wanted to sort of share, which I've just covered on already, but I want to emphasize a bit more. Is that when we're lonely, I have felt sometimes that there is an envious feeling, like that we envy people who are happy. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because when we're sad on the inside, we can't see or witness anyone else being happy, because that really consolidates our sadness. And I've experienced that sometimes where I've not been in a good state of mind, and you see people around you being happy and laughing, and then you look at yourself and you think, why can't I be happy? Why can't I feel like that? Why do I feel like I can't connect with anyone and be happy? And I think that really helped. That compresses the loneliness as well, suppresses the loneliness as well, because when you are feeling that way, you just hope that someone is there who can understand you, or there's someone that can help you not feel that way going forward. And I think that when one feels in such a loneliness state, it's a case of us. For me, it's a case of just hoping that somebody will be there for us, or somebody will help us understand why we feel lonely. But I think for men, it's very difficult to express that, and that comes down to one of the topics as to why I think that is. And one of those that springs to mind for me is childhood trauma, and not being able to express your emotions as a young child. Now, in the past, I've witnessed, I've spoken to people in the past, sort of past friends who are older than me, and you can really understand sometimes where the loneliness comes from. And I think one of those is particularly the ones I want us to talk about today, is when you cannot express your emotions because you have not been taught to express them. And I've experienced that, because sometimes when I'm feeling a certain way, I don't want to express it because I feel like I'll feel weak. It makes me think that I can't express my emotions because I don't want to be portrayed as weak by other people, and that it's a false definition of being strong. Now, by that I mean is, if we express our emotions, or let's say particularly I express my emotions, in the past I've always said that I feel weak. I'm going to let people down. I don't want people to see that I'm sad, because nobody's going to understand how I feel. So what is the point? And I've experienced that a lot in the past. And I think one of those reasons is through the childhood trauma, not being able to express my emotions as a young man, having that emotional dysfunction as a human being, which makes it difficult to express your emotions because you feel guilty in doing so. But as time goes on, and particularly within present world today, there is more opportunity to express your emotions confidently and confidentially. And that's great. That's brilliant. And I think it's something that should be put out in the open a lot more, because in my opinion, men aren't just machines. And you've seen in the past that men are expressed or considered a breadwinner, the breadwinner of a family, or breadwinner of looking after your children. And therefore, a certain perception in the past has been men will do everything. Men will look after the family. Men will earn the money. And then the women or the partner will look after the home, look after the children. When you think of that, don't you feel left out? As in, okay, I've got a job to do. I'm just going to go out and do my job every single day. That's fine, but you're not a machine, right? Men aren't machines, are they? And having that perception makes it very difficult. So when a man feels a certain way, or they don't feel very good, or for some reason they're feeling sad, why would a man want to express that to their family or their friends or their family or friend circle? Why would you want to do that when in the past you've been told that you have to look after your family and you are, as part of society, you're the breadwinner, therefore you need to get on with it? So if you can imagine that at a young age, that you were told that you are the person to look after your family and be able to earn a lot more, or just be able to ensure that everyone around you is comfortable and happy and secure. So what about the man? What about the breadwinner who's doing it? Don't men have can't men express? What about their emotions? And then when as a man, we start to feel like we're feeling sad and emotional for whatever reason, how do we express it? How do we express it if as a young child we've been told, well, not been told, well, we're told we're the breadwinners, yes, but when we've not been nurtured emotionally? By emotional nurturing, I mean that as a young child, have you been able to express how you felt? Maybe you're coming back from school, you've been bullied, and maybe you're going to work, something's happened at work, or a friend has passed away, or you've had a relationship breakdown. As a young child and going forward into adult life, if you've not been nurtured emotionally to understand how you can express your emotions, do you think you'll be able to do that today? Of course, there is help out there now that being able to express emotions is actually a healthy thing. But childhood trauma makes it difficult for a man to do that because they've not been taught how to do it. Or they've not really seen that path of communication. I can express, I can communicate effectively, I can express my emotions. And then it would be second nature to express your emotions, right? For example, I'm feeling a bit sad today because my dog died. Or, my friends don't make me feel welcome anymore. I feel lonely. I need to find another group of friends. So when a man can't express that, subconsciously, they're being fed those thoughts to themselves. You're lonely. Nobody understands you. Nobody's going to care what you think about it, think anyway. You are the breadwinner. Get on with it. Get on with what you are told, what your task is for your life. And I think it's really important that we break that cycle. And as I've mentioned, I know there is help out there now, which may make it more easier for people to express. But now, the way I see it is that it's still very difficult for men to do so because of the shame that they feel and the guilt that they feel that they should be able to express their emotions. That is a challenge for men, a lot of men, to be able to express their emotions. And that is one of the key steps to accept that you can express your emotions. And when you're feeling lonely, that it's okay to express how you feel. And that's one of the other elements that I want to speak about here is that, do you think you should be able to express your emotions as a man? I think so. What's wrong with it? So isn't there a moment where you cry? Isn't there a moment where you feel sad and you really just want to cuddle, or you feel like you just want someone to be there for you to express how you feel, to make yourself feel better? It's really important to emphasize here that expressing your emotions is it's healthy. Expressing how you feel, getting it out of your system is very, very healthy. And it is for men as well. And that is really critical that I want to emphasize, is that if you are sitting there in your seat, listening to this now, reading this now, watching this now, and inside you can feel in your mind, body and soul that you feel some sort of loneliness, or there is something inside of you that you want to talk about that is causing you extreme sadness, then you can express it. Why can't you express it? Doesn't mean you're weak. Emotional communication is actually one of the more stronger forms of communication. If you can express your emotions, then that is a big bonus, and it's a big plus, especially for men who may have not been taught that. Now, expressing your emotions doesn't mean that you're weak. It actually means that you are suffering with something in your mind, body and soul, and you want to bring it out in the open and bring it out. That's all it means. So why can't you look after yourself as a man? Why can't you look after your emotions as a man? Why? And that's my question, is why can't you? So if you are watching this now, I ask you, can you express your emotions at the moment right now? Can you take the step to accept that you are feeling some sort of sadness, which is causing you to feel lonely because you think nobody understands? But you can take that step to say, I'm feeling a certain way today, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling lonely, and taking that step. Because there are people out there who do understand, and it's really important to emphasize that men can express as much as a woman can. And it's a strength to be able to do that. And there was something else, another thing I wanted to express, that when we are feeling lonely, we feel like our voice is more suppressed. And when our voice is more suppressed, it's very difficult for us as men to communicate. And when that happens, then I certainly begin to feel like I just need to get on with my day. Don't worry about how I feel, it's okay. But it persists in your mind regularly, it regurgitates in your mind if you haven't brought it out in the open. And if you don't bring it out in the open, it will impact your relationships. Because you may go out and meet a couple of your friends and think, I'm just going to go, it'll be fine. I'll talk to them and everyone will feel, everyone will welcome me. What if they don't? What if you actually stand there and think, I can't communicate with these people? I'm feeling low and sad, but why should I express it to them? Why should I feel like I'm a burden to them? So when that happens, when we feel suppressed, we're more likely to just keep it in our minds and deal with it ourselves. And that's not the most healthy thing to do. When you are suffering with something and you struggle to talk, that's because you've suppressed your communication. You don't feel like you can talk. So therefore, you don't feel like it's right to talk. Because you don't feel like you don't express naturally, because you've suppressed your own voice. And I think that's really important to emphasize, is that when men are feeling lonely, or as they're growing up, when speaking on an emotional level, you feel like you feel suppressed, in the sense of you tell yourself that you don't want to talk about it. The feeling will persist in your mind and your body, but you don't want to talk about it. How does it feel when it sits inside your mind and body? How does it feel when you're feeling lonely, but you can't express it? How does it feel? Does it feel difficult to deal with? Are you struggling? And that's really, really key to really explain that. I've suffered with that. I've suffered sometimes where I'm in my room and I'm on my own and I don't speak to anyone. Or if somebody asks me if I'm all right, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Because I can deal with it. I feel like I can deal with it. But the feeling continues to regurgitate in our mind and body. And that not only suppresses our voice, but it suppresses our happiness. because we don't even feel happy. So that's really important that I wanted to explain, to emphasize today as well. And I want to look at the final bit I wanted to talk about was how, as a man, we can confide in ourselves as well as being able to get that support. I've got support over the last 2.5, 3 years now, and I'm a lot more confident expressing my emotions. And the perception of expressing your emotions as a man changes as you talk. So by that I mean, if you've not got help and you've been taught that you're just a man, your perception of your man is you are the breadwinner of the family, you need to get on with your life, your emotions don't matter. If you don't talk about it, that's what you're going to believe. Now, I'm not going to lie, a lot of men are able to deal with it. Absolutely. And commend to them. But there are a lot of men that can't. And a lot of men can't deal with that. So what I say is, I would recommend those that are watching as well, is if that don't feel like you're the odd one out, because you're not. The only thing that's making you feel the odd one out is your perception of talking about your emotions. Your perception that you are weak if you express your emotions and express how you feel. If that's the case, fine, but there'll be a few of you out there, particularly it was me, that hide in a corner and just feel lonely because nobody will understand. Now, if we don't make them understand, how are we going to feel better about ourselves? How is that other person going to see how we feel? And that's really, really important that I want to express, is that the moment you take that step to confide in yourself, to tell yourself that it is okay to express your emotions, the better and more happier you will become, and the more connected to yourself you will be. The more self-aware you will be of how you're feeling. And that if you feel lonely, you'd be able to identify ways to combat that. To talk to somebody who you trust. Talk to them confidently. Meet people that understands. And I think that's really key here, is that finding your safe space, finding your people to talk to, is really, really important to combat the loneliness that men, i.e. a lot of people, and maybe yourself and I, have felt in the past, because we've never felt we could express our emotions. But I'm here to say that you can, and I want to be able to connect with you who are watching, and be able to leave it in the comments if you felt lonely in the past, or you feel lonely now, and how that makes you feel. Or even those who have felt it in the past but now have been able to express confidently. They've been able to put coping mechanisms in place to help them, to make them feel like they're not alone. But I say to you, as a man to a man, if you're feeling lonely, it's absolutely okay to feel lonely. But what's important is that you don't sit with that. You acknowledge and accept that there is something wrong, that you are feeling lonely, and you want to be able to get that out, and you want that support, and you want that, you want those people who are willing to sit with you and understand how you feel. And when you don't do that, you curl up into a corner and you just want the feeling to go, but the feeling doesn't go. The moment you start connecting with yourself and expressing your emotions a lot more, talking, the more you will feel more connected with yourself, and you'd be able to develop yourself into a person who may like their own company. But the key is to express. The key is to talk. Men, you are not alone. Talking to you who is watching it, you are not alone. loneliness in men is now got to be treated as something of the past. It's got to be a perception that we keep in the past, and that we bring out emotional communication, particularly for men who are feeling lonely. And if you feel like you can't express, that's okay for now. But I say it to you, emotional expression is key to be feeling better about yourself. So if you are watching this and you are feeling lonely, I urge you to just take that step to confide in someone and make them confide in someone that you trust. Confide in someone that you trust, and that will be the first step for you to now begin to emphasize that you are actually not alone. So, my friends, I sign off by saying, talk, 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 and express. Men, it is absolutely fine and okay to do.